and welcome to Wildly Curious, where the questions are unhinged, the science is real, and honestly, we're just getting started. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katy. And...
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Wildly curious, where science gets strange and kinda hilarious. For nature's wonders to ancient funk, it's facts and fun rolled into one big chunk. Wildly curious, we're just wonderful. Come join the fuss.
Today, we are going to talk about how you can find your way in the world by just reading nature.
Which sounds easy peasy, but it's not. It really isn't. So yeah, we're going to talk about, we've talked previously, and I know last season, and we've hit on it several other times about like migration, navigation, how animals do it.
And even how bad humans are at it, we've touched on too.
Yes. But today then... Yeah, we're not completely hopeless, even though it might feel like it. But today we're going to be talking about, Laura's going to cover navigation for humans on land and how you can do it. And then I'm going to be talking about the impossible, what seems like impossible, navigating at sea when there's nothing freaking around.
Yeah, and this topic, so I started to become obsessed with this topic, I guess it was right around the pandemic time. I don't remember how it even came up, but I got a book for my brother by Tristan Gooley, who is like the Sherlock Holmes of reading the land. And,
yes.
And it's called Natural Navigation. He's written so many books. That man has literally, you can plop him anywhere in the world and he can find his way back by reading nature.
Yeah,
and then
there was incredible.
It's so cool. I was like, I need to learn how to do this. And then just this last semester, my last semester of grad school, we had to read a book on interpreting the forest. But like interpreting as in reading the forest signs and like how you can know the story of a forest just by looking at, all right, there's a cluster of trees. That means it was probably, and like the history of the land. Reading the landscape, that's what it was. It was about reading landscapes. And I was like, this is amazing. I want to go anywhere and be like, I know exactly what happened. Like it's truly feels like Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. So I'm gonna throw Laura a curveball here. We're gonna do something we don't normally do, which is start with telling you why the episode is so important.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
And the bigger picture here of why we're talking about this. So because normally we do that at the end, is leading you guys off into like triumph of woohoo. But
our call to action.
We're going to start with this. So when we start to talk about navigation, it is really neat. You are learning about the world around you. And it's not that we as humans have lost it. We have just replaced it with everything else as far as GPS, as far as a weatherman goes. Like we've replaced it with some form of technology that we just haven't had to use it. We don't practice it. And especially if you don't practice from a young age, it doesn't necessarily disappear per se, but it just goes quiet.
Definitely like in first world countries in particular, I was just reading something not that long ago about how our language has changed.
Yeah.
To lose navigational words because we don't need them anymore. Whereas certain like indigenous peoples, they have 17 words for water.
Yes.
To describe it or the smell. It was smell. It was something about smell. I think it was in Indonesia. And they have way more words to describe that because they need that.
Yes.
And we don't need those words anymore.
We don't need those words anymore. Yeah, because we just don't slow down enough. We don't need to read the world around us. And so I guess the whole point of this episode, one, this stuff is really cool. Hopefully we'll spark something in you guys to be like, oh, you know what? I should look into this. Because it is really cool to be able to go out into the woods, or whenever I would be leading groups in a canoe down a river, I can read the river, and it's just so cool to be able to predict and be able to know the why. Like, this is happening now and here, and this is how I can tell you what we're going to encounter a half mile, quarter mile down the river because of the signs I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I think for me, it's not survival, right? For any of us, really, at this point, unless something happens and we're all ready. I'm ready for that hatchet to happen at any time.
Effing ready for an apocalypse.
Yeah.
I am so
Find
ready.
Either Katy or I, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
But mine is because, one, it makes you so incredibly present.
It does. It absolutely does.
So present in where you are because you're hyper focused on where you are right then, like you're saying.
Yep.
So you notice everything. You're not thinking about other things. You're right.
It grounds
there.
you. It really grounds you in psychologically, that's not something like our brains are not hardwired to take in as much information as it is right now with all the news, with all the everything.
And even just sounds and
the sounds, just everything. Like our brains haven't really caught up to this yet. Our brains, though, from evolution, are more hardwired for this situation. I say at some point in my talk, you look at my ADHD brain, this is why I like birding. This is why I like being outside, because it does ground you in a world. Like, my brain is meant to pick up
and hyper-focus on something, too.
Yes, but it also is meant to pick up on all these cues to interpret it, but it's it's been brought in too much. There's too much information in the digital age. And so, yes, this helps me to focus in on that, but it's a much more... Again, I hate to keep saying the word grounded, but it's a much more grounded approach to it. Yeah. Because it feels more natural.
That, and then I just like the story aspect of it. I am a story person. Yeah. So I like to be able to be like, oh, that's why. This is like where the curiosity comes in. I want to be present, and I want to be curious, and it gives me answers.
Yeah. Because, once you start understanding one thing and you pull that thread to understanding one thing, it just leads you to another, wanting to know something about something else, and then do another, and then do another, and another. And it is really cool whenever you can tell other people about it, because it's the landscape and the stuff in our world has changed, but the world itself hasn't necessarily changed.
And there's certain, like, rules, essentially. Like, nature, yes there's always exceptions, but there's also some rules. That you can predict.
Yep. So let's go ahead. Laura's going to talk about land. She's going to talk about different aspects on navigating land. I'm going to talk about different aspects navigating at sea. So before we jump into then our examples, this is going to kind of give you a different perspective on navigation, right? Because I think a lot of people get navigation and thinking of navigation wrong because of how we grew up in the world that we did. So oftentimes people think about navigation, about knowing exactly where you are, your coordinates, your location. It's your dot on a map, because everything we're doing, if you pull open a map, even if you had an atlas paper map, you want to know where you are. But that idea only works if the world around you is stable.
Yeah.
And things like the ocean and even the forest, more so the ocean than the forest sometimes, but the forest, like the world around us, isn't stable. And so I just want you to think about it that way, that yes, we feel like whenever we navigate, it's us moving through a world, but sometimes you have to more think of it from the other's perspective. It's us almost staying still and the world coming to us. And I'm going to give some examples of that too.
That, and I think too, if you think about, you were just saying we like to know where we are on a map. None of this will tell you where you are on a map. It will tell you how to get
It'll tell you how to get somewhere, yes.
Yeah.
And so I think we just need to reframe how we're all thinking about navigation, because we're so used to, whenever you say navigate, it's point A to point B, where you are navigating how you're getting to point B, to your destination. And you got to think of it a little bit differently, that everything around you is changing and moving, and it's
the journey, bro.
Yeah, it's the journey, yes.
Okay.
So with that said, Laura, do you want to go ahead and kick us off with your first navigating land part?
Yes. You can visit Tristan Gooley's website. He's got a lot of different examples. I just wanted to do the three that I usually think about. I didn't touch on the sun. Did you touch on the sun?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Well, kind of. I mean, a little bit.
We all know, at least hopefully most of you that are listening, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So, you could know that direction somewhat.
Yeah.
Also, caveat that all of my stuff is mostly for people who live in the northern hemisphere. You just have to flip-flop it, and you do have to know some things about your own location, which you will have to look up on your own.
Yeah.
So this is if you were where I lived in North America. All right, so plants. You can tell direction from plants and use them to navigate. We've all heard about moss on the north side of a tree. It's not even that accurate.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's not foolproof, because it's not, it's not even.
There are a lot of extenuating circumstances for moss. But I did want to go over how the sun has influenced some plants and how we can look at them for direction. So, unless we live on the equator, the sun is not rising directly east to west, right? Yep. So if we're in the northern hemisphere, it's slightly south, rising east to west. If you're in the southern hemisphere, it's in the north. Keep that in mind. Because the sun is in the southern part of the hemisphere, or the southern part of our sky here in the northern hemisphere, it has a major impact on the plants in that direction.
Yes.
So I want you guys, when you go out next time, to be looking for asymmetry, right? Nature is full of symmetry. Leaves are symmetrical, at least to a point, right? Like, it's not exact, but for the most part, nature is lazy, and it just repeats itself.
Yep. We talked about DNA last week, guys.
Exactly.
Or 2 weeks ago. So
symmetry is everywhere. But look for the asymmetry. So when looking at a tree, you're going to notice that it is not perfectly symmetrical in the way that it grows. It wants to maximize its exposure to sunlight to be able to photosynthesize as much as possible. It's going to reach for the sun. Like, we all know plants need that. So therefore, limbs and branches should be located more on the southern side of the tree than on the northern side. So it's going to give it a lopsided appearance. You're only going to be able to tell this by standing under it and looking up and at least doing at least one circle around it, just to make sure that you're like, okay, yeah, it's more heavy on that side with branches than this side.
Which I do a lot, but I'm normally looking for birds when I do that.
Yeah, right? And you're the same thing. Which also, I bet that birds spend more time on the southern side of the tree because of the warmth.
Oh, yeah. I would be
So
shocked.
2 birds, 1 stone, or...
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we're not throwing rocks at our birds.
Yeah, please don't throw rocks at birds.
And also, branches that are on the southern side of the tree tend to grow horizontally, reaching for the sun and almost pointing the way. So, like, you're going to see not only more branches that way, but more, like, horizontally straight branches. This is most easily seen when you're looking at a tree west to east, not north to south. Like I said, you're going to have to do a circuit around it and kind of figure it out. So it's harder to determine.
But again, that's the whole point. You know what I mean? Like,
you're reading it. You're not knowing it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're reading it. Yeah, you don't already know. Yeah, you're figuring it out. And that's part of the slow down, look, analyze, and learn. Yeah.
And it's harder to determine in a forest because competition is also influencing things. So you might have to take a couple of readings. Don't just rely on this one tree because maybe its neighbor is being a jerk and blocking all the sunlight. So it's got to go some weird ways.
Yeah, it has to work extra hard,
But the fewer trees, the better. If you find just a random tree out on a hill, perfect. That tree will tell you everything.
Yeah, it's been waiting so long to talk to somebody
point the way.
That it's just like, oh my God, yes, somebody here to read
for
me.
directions.
Yeah, right. Go this way, young traveler. Like, it's so excited.
So cute. But yeah, so I've definitely tried this in our forest at work. And it's true. I mean, certainly they're growing more on the southern side. So if whatever side is south, all right, you should already know east and west because of the sun. Once you know south, then you know north. There you go.
And a tidbit here, too, if you guys aren't like, okay, why does this even matter? I'm not going to be out navigating. 1, it is still cool. But 2, things like photographers, information like this is super important because let's say if you want to take pictures of like solid fall foliage, go on the south side, look up at the forest, you know what I mean? To get the most leaves, the most everything.
Yeah, because they're even going to orient their leaf. They're going to orient to get the sun. So the leaves will even twist.
Yep.
This is also why south-facing slopes have entirely different plants than north-facing slopes. There are, again, this is extremely regional. In a book that I got about reading that forest landscape of the Northeast, it had a list of indicator plants at the back, which was so cool of like, if you see this plant, you're on a south-facing slope. So you just figure, you've got to figure out your own area. But if you see plants, at least where I am, that are shade-loving, ferns, rhododendrons, you're probably on a north-facing slope.
Yeah.
On the south, it's always going to be drier because the sun is there. So you're going to be finding more dry-loving plants. So again, look at the trees, but also look at the ground. What's growing around you? Is it the shade-loving plants or the sun-loving plants? And that will tell you, again, some direction.
In Texas, it'll be like, follow the greater roadrunner and like
and pray for luck.
Yeah, pray for some shade.
Well, at least in Texas, you can do the next one for plants. So even if the sun isn't your indicator, wind also influences plants.
Yeah.
And if you've got a lot of exposure,
we have so much wind.
Yeah. So then you just need to know your wind patterns. So wind is a super powerful force in nature. If you've ever gone to the top of a mountain, you can see how stunted those poor trees are from the wind.
Right?
Or how blown, like in one direction they are. It can push them, literally push them into growing in weird ways. So in order to know which way the uppermost branches on a tree, it's not going to work if they're blocked from the wind, but the uppermost branches of the tree, if you need to know which direction your prevailing winds are coming from. So in Maryland, prevailing winds for most of the year are northwesterly, which means that they blow from the northwest towards the southeast. Okay, so your prevailing wind means the direction wind is usually coming from, and then the name of it is the direction it's coming from, a northwesterly.
Yes.
Again, this changes as the seasons sometimes change, and it changes right depending on your location, but in Maryland, it's that, which is very convenient because it happens to be the exact same direction that the sun rises. So it has the double whammy of the trees are going to be pointing you south, southeast because of the wind and the sun. If you were in a different place and the wind was pushing in the opposite direction than the sun, I'm sure it's going to be extra confusing. But wind does have to do with heat, so it probably lines up a lot because of air temperatures.
But I know, too, anytime you have strong winds that go against your norm, that's typically when you're going to have crazy storms and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, that's true. It could tell you some other things.
Yeah.
So when I look up at the upper branch of a tree, especially one exposed, like our navigational tree on the hill, if we can find a tree that's exposed, I should see the branches are pointing southeast, so nothing is confusing.
Yep.
So that's how you can read the plants. Pretty simple. I'm truly, you just got to look up what's your prevailing winds and just, are you in the north or south hemisphere?
Yeah.
The plants will tell you.
The plants will tell you.
The animals will tell you. Now, this is, I actually think, less reliable because
they're
animals are not stationary, right? Like you're saying, this is not a static thing.
Yeah, it's a moving system.
And animals have more personnel. They make a lot of decisions that aren't rational. Yeah. Plants are very rational beings because they follow a very strict set of rules. Meanwhile, animals might just go crazy. But there are a couple things. And this is also why animals work really well to predict weather, because they do make some predictable decisions. So spiders are something that you're going to want to take notice of. Those that build webs expend a lot of energy. So not all spiders build webs, but a lot of them. And they don't want their webs to get destroyed. If it's going to take that much work to build a web, you're not going to do it if it's about to get destroyed and before you can even catch anything.
Right.
So because of this, they tend to build their webs on the lee side of the trees, buildings. And lee side is the side sheltered from the rain and wind. So if I know my prevailing winds are blowing from the northeast, northwest, I should find spiders on the southeast side of things. Or at least the southern side, where everything is, right? This is all very convenient. That's where I should be finding the sheltered area of stuff. Bonus fact, if you see a spider spinning a web, it indicates good weather, as they won't waste their energy spending if they can feel the low pressure of a storm. So look for spiders, find where their webs are, and bonus, if you find one actually spinning, you know that you're not going to have to worry about a storm that day.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too, because it's not only navigation, but it's also, you're going to navigate through this system, but if there's bad weather coming, you need to seek shelter. Yeah. And so it's not just for navigation. It's also, understanding when animals are predicting weather. It's the bigger picture,
like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So spiders are a really good indicator. They're very sensitive. They're so tiny. Cows and many other grazing animals, slight indicator. They do typically align themselves north to south. Okay.
Which is just so bizarre, but
apparently they think it has something to do with the wind. Yeah. So they're facing into it. So my cows should probably be facing to the north and their butts to the south. But again, this is not foolproof. And it doesn't tell you which way. So they could be facing north or they could be facing south.
Yeah.
But typically, that's how they orient themselves. And we can also just, let's say you're lost, okay? And a town's probably nearby, but you have no idea where. If you find a domesticated animal, just follow it home.
Yes.
Because they're not dumb, and they will head towards either water or shelter, both of which you're going to need if you're lost. Yeah. So just follow the domesticated animals, not the wild ones. They won't lead you anywhere.
Follow that domesticated animal. Yeah.
And then finally, the lichen, which I thought was so cool. Lichen and fungi, you know how we feel about these. We talk about them all the time because it's just so cool. But as we've mentioned before on this podcast, lichens are a partnership between a fungi and either an algae or a cyanobacteria. Fungi forms the structure. The algae or bacteria photosynthesize. So again, sun matters here. And sun is directional. So lichen are pretty picky about where they grow and in what conditions, even more so than moss. Moss needs the moisture. Lichen can be one way or the other, but it is very specific about its conditions.
Yes.
If you can begin to notice a pattern in the lichen that you're seeing when you're out and about, in the woods or exploring anywhere. As to which prefer to grow in moist versus dry areas, you'll be able to figure out direction. For example, typically, lighter colored lichens, like golden colored lichens, are found on the southern side. Why? Because they need to have sunblock in them.
It's our pale friends.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So they're growing on the south, at least around here in the northern hemisphere. Yeah. South is getting more sun. They need to block some of that so that they don't just dry out. Whereas the darker lichens, they can really grow anywhere, but they're going to be dark to maximize the amount of light they're absorbing. Yes. Meanwhile, the golden ones are like, too much. I need to reflect it. There is a sun-loving North American lichen called sunburst lichen and the elegant sunburst lichen, both of which live in sunny open areas and are orange or yellow. So if you see orange or yellow, you're on the south side of something. So like circle the tree or the boulder or the wall or whatever this lichen is growing on.
Yeah.
And it's probably on the south side, like everything else I've been telling you about.
Right.
So south. And again, you can figure out your own area and what lichens grow on what. It's just a matter of being observant. So all the things about the land, look at the plants, look at the animals, look at the lichen. Most things are telling you what south is. We already know east and west because of the sun. And just be observant. Take the time.
Yeah. Alrighty. Laura gave her examples for land. I'm going to talk about the sea and how... Listen, this one, I learned a lot in this one because to me, this seems so...
I would lose it if I got lost at sea.
Yeah,
I would be like, I'm never getting out of here.
Yeah, because and again, it's where did I grow up? I grew up in the woods, so all of that is familiar. I didn't grow up in a boat, Moana and my way across the ocean, so not as familiar with it. So think about, I mentioned earlier about navigation. You're not just a dot; it's you are moving through the system. All right. Navigation at sea is all about understanding motion. All motion. Whereas land, it's a little bit more stable. Ocean, no. But there are still signs that you need to be able to know to see. It's a lot of pattern recognition, which, woohoo, ADHD, folks. Again, ADHD brains are just meant to survive. Like, we are just built for survival.
Yeah, we're just not in the modern world of
we're just not built
and bills and
forget buildings in the 9 to 5. Like, our brain, we're not built for this survival. So it's everything about sea is motion because is motion in the ocean. Oh, there you go. Because the ocean is a dynamic system, a lot more dynamic. It's not an empty one. It's not stagnant. It doesn't stay still. It's constantly moving. So let's talk about first the sky as a map. All right. We've touched on this one previously, so I'm not going to hit on it too much, but the sky, all right, particularly the night sky. When we talk about ancient navigation, people love to just jump straight to constellations, but they think of it that sailors were memorizing charts or ticking boxes off in their heads of...
Which they did have star charts, but I'm sure that was later. There's a lot of math involved.
Yeah, but it also wasn't like, okay, first I need to go through Orion's belt, then I need to hit the... you know what I mean? So it wasn't it wasn't
dot to dot.
Yeah, it wasn't a checklist that you had to move through. What mattered wasn't the stars themselves, it was how they moved. It was all about movement. So stars rise and set in predictable paths, night after night, season after season. Certain stars always rise in roughly the same direction. Others reach their highest point in the sky at consistent times throughout the year too. So if you understand those patterns, and that's what most of those old star charts was talking about the patterns and understanding the patterns. And when you see those patterns and really get those patterns, the sky becomes more of a moving reference system rather than a static map.
Yeah. Yeah, because it can tell you it's seasonal.
Yes, it's very seasonal.
And time of night.
Yes. Yep. And it's very similar to the sun, like how Laura touched on about the sun. But there is a key distinction between the stars and the sun other than like night and day. Ancient navigators, they weren't obsessed, like we said, with the destinations the way that we are. Like, we think of navigation to get to an end point. They just focused, especially in the ocean, you just focus on a direction, all right? You couldn't when you hit the fourth seal, turn a right, then go past the iceberg. Like, you can't do that in the ocean. So you're always just focused on a direction. And if you can hold a steady direction long enough, and understand what might be pushing you off course, you can get to wherever you need to get to. One of the clearest examples of this comes from the Polynesian wayfinders, aka Moana, the people who crossed thousands of miles in the Pacific Ocean without compasses. They did not use charts or instruments and things. So navigators from places like the Hawaiian Islands, Tahiti, and essentially all of the Pacific Islands, they weren't trying to pinpoint their position in the ocean. Instead, like I said before, they memorized how specific stars rose and set along the horizon and used those rising and setting points to maintain direction over long voyages. Each star acted as a directional marker, and if a particular star arose in the east and set in the west along a known path, holding the star's movement meant holding a course.
Yeah, which they do in the Moana movie.
They
She's
do.
like, all right, I'm following that.
That's the
There's
hand
that many
motion
fingers.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's why she's doing it, because it's the motion. She's looking at the motion and staying course on the motion. And so what's remarkable is that these navigators didn't really think in terms of, again, traveling towards something. So I hinted towards this earlier, but this was deeply seen in a lot of like their cultural references. Is they didn't think that they were going somewhere. They thought the places, like they know they went out and then they saw it as the places coming to them.
That's wild to think about.
Yeah. So they thought of it in terms of they were just, think of it as, you're standing still and everything's coming
That's
at you.
freaky.
And you just have to sit there like an old video game, essentially. You just have to sit there and go back and forth and part your way. And you're just in like almost like a horizontal plane.
Like a really meta level, the world is spinning.
Right?
It's too weird. I can't think about that way. I know. No.
Right? Laura's done. This is where Laura's is tapped out. She's done. But yeah,
I'm
when
the one going.
Yeah, right. But again, and that's what I think too, a lot of times with navigation, especially whenever we're out in nature, a lot of people think of navigation as, I don't know if control is the right word,
Which is
but it's almost like,
yes, everything's always human centric.
Yes, and so we think of it very much so as in a way of, if I understand it, I can control it, essentially. You can't do that in the ocean because there is no control over things, because
that's so true.
Some of these things are coming, which I'm going to hit on next, but some of these things are coming from thousands of miles away. You have no control over. And thinking of it from that perspective, that they figured they just went out further from their island and they literally were just going back and forth, like a video game. Just
with no way of knowing. I mean, they wouldn't have known that they were going anywhere. There's no reference point.
Yeah, because their reference points is always moving this way. It's always moving this. It's always the same direction. So it would make a ton of sense that the world is coming to you, and you just need to sit there and drift back and forth.
Whoa, it's a whole other level to the way indigenous people think. Like, we already knew it wasn't as human centric, but that is wild.
Yeah, that's a whole other level. And so, again, whenever you think about navigation at sea that way, no wonder they were just like, I just have to hold my course. I have to stay in this, because eventually that island,
that star comes to you too. Yeah, I mean, the stars themselves look like they're coming to you.
Yeah, so it all comes to you. So eventually the island will come to you. You just have to stay your course, which there's all kinds of like deeper meaning there too, right? So now let's get into then the reading the water. This is where things got really interesting here for me, because the ocean only looks chaotic if you don't know what you're looking at, right? Which is me.
Right.
Most of us see waves and assume randomness. Waves go up, waves go down. Everything feels messy, unpredictable. But experienced navigators made a crucial distinction. Waves and swells are not the same thing. And whenever humans understood that changed our navigation as, I don't want to say like a commercial level, but when we really understood that, that's when it went from like indigenous level to this became common, widespread, knowledge sharing. So waves are very much so local. They're created by nearby winds, which means they change quickly and irregularly. Swells, on the other hand, are deeper, longer, and far more consistent. They can travel thousands of miles from storms that created them, moving across the ocean like slow, steady pulses, more rhythmic. Instead of sharp peaks, it looks like the ocean is breathing. And so on a deck of a ship, it's up and down. It's that pulse. And it'll go, it's not just one. Yeah, it's either up and down, But then again, more than one swell can happen. So then it's side to side. And so remember, everything is about a direction and staying that direction and just head that direction. But understanding the different swells, you have to understand, okay, if I'm going up and down and I'm still staying in that direction, this is great. But all of a sudden, if a swell starts rocking you sideways, you have to redirect yourself. You have to compensate and be like, we got to turn up farther this way because that's going to knock you out. So you have to be able to be really paying attention. Is it just a breathing up and down? Is it just a wave that you have to like quickly turn your boat to correct? Because it's two very different things. Swells can help you really get to where you're going, or can really set you off course, but you just have to feel which way they're going. Waves are very surface level, swells are very deep. And so if you hit an island or a shallow area, it bends around them. They reflect back, they interfere with incoming swells. So even when you can't see land, the water, if you're paying attention enough, it behaves differently. The motion starts...
A swell will rock you in, and then you'll feel a rock back.
Yep, it'll start to feel different. Or if it's coming at you, but right next to you, it's going... You know what I mean? Because it breaks it. So the islands break...
It's ocean echolocation.
Yes. No, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I didn't know about this. I've seen pictures of this stuff, but I had no idea what they were. So for the last 2,000 plus years, navigators from the Marshall Islands built entire navigation systems noticing exactly this. So they understood that the long, consistent swells move across the Pacific in fairly predictable directions. Like we said about...
Almost like how currents move in predictable directions?
Okay. Yeah. And so when those swells encountered islands, they didn't disappear. They just bent, reflected, and interacted with other swells in very repeatable ways. So Marshallese navigators trained themselves to recognize these interactions through the motion of their canoes. They could tell when multiple swells crossed at unusual angles. They could recognize before the land even appeared on the horizon. And they could sense the ocean's rhythm change in a way that meant something solid of some sort was nearby. So from all of this, they built stick charts. Whoa. So they're actual physical models that they took and they bent sticks and they showed the swells in the ocean, and then they put like a rock and tie the rock into place. And so they started memorizing the ocean swells, and this is how they would pass down from generation to generation. Not only do you need to be out there and feeling it, but mentally picture this is what it's doing around an island. And they all did this with just sticks. Just Google like Marshall Island stick charts and you'll see all kinds of stuff. It's actually really cool because it's not
just... They just got bigger and bigger and bigger over each generation.
No, right? Exactly. So it started as, our intuition. We just have to listen to your gut and the feeling and kind of notice and pick up on these cues. But then they started to record them, noticing that these are very repeatable. Let's record them. How are we going to record them? Not just drawing it. They like crafted actual sticks 3D, to actually show these things. So I've talked about wind a few times. Wind definitely contributes to all of this, obviously. Most of us nowadays, it's just background noise. But again, like Laura said earlier, wind is very important. We notice when it's uncomfortable and inconvenient, but ancient navigators treated wind as data, just like they did everything else. It's not random. It is very structured if you understand it. Large-scale wind patterns repeat seasonally, and that means at certain times of the year, wind tends to come from the same direction over and over again, like what Laura was talking about.
Prevailing winds, yeah.
Yep. But navigators didn't just hope for good winds. They planned whole voyages around
before
them.
Motors, that's all you had.
Yep, that's all they had. Yeah, your sails. You had to have the wind. They knew when the wind would help, when it would fight them, and when it would quietly push them off course if they weren't paying attention. So what did you actually notice about the wind? First, consistency. Steady winds feels predictable. It presses against the sails or on your face at the same angle hour after hour. If you're on a ship and the wind direction stays stable while the water underneath you shifts, that does tell you something important. You're moving through a system that has layers, and that's what you have to be paying attention and putting together all of these layers. I had a whole different view on pirates after this, that they're not...
You're like, they're not as dumb as we thought.
Yeah, not as dumb and pillaging people as we thought here. You actually had to be intelligent to know this stuff. All right, so now here's where it then adds another layer onto this. Wind, just like swells, changes near land too. Even before you can see a shore, wind starts behaving differently. It becomes uneven, it gusts, it stalls, it shifts directions briefly, and then snaps back. Islands bend the wind, just like you do with a swell. Coastlines deflect it, mountains disrupt it entirely, and from a boat, this feels like the wind is losing its confidence. It's just getting weaker and weaker. And it stops being so smooth, and it starts feeling jumpy. So whenever you get closer to land, it's not just like a constant
buffeted.
nice, it's like you keep getting hit with it, and that change is information. And so you have to look at where the wind and the waters and everything line up and keep looking at that cross pattern to be able to make the distinction of, this is where I'm going, this is how I have to say, this is the direction that I'm going. And to me, honestly, thinking of it from the perspective that we do now is I'm moving somewhere makes it way more complicated than the I'm staying put and the world is coming past me.
Yeah.
That, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes all these layers and like signs and symptoms a lot easier to comprehend.
It's just flowing past.
Because it's coming past. And so you're just looking at a horizontal plane, and how is it coming past that horizontal plane? You're not planning.
Yeah, it feels less, you are planning, but it feels less overwhelming. Because
it feels
it's not as forward.
Expansive. Yeah, because it's not as expansive. You just have to worry about the
happening
plane
right this second. Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at the plane right here where you are and what's passing you. You don't have to worry about everything, all the unknowns ahead of you and trying to predict all the unknown. It's just you're reading it as it's coming to you.
Yeah.
So when I started started realizing all the layers, I was like, they had it right. Like the Polynesian wayfinders, like they had it figured out. Like it was simplicity's sake, because they still have to fish, they still have to go somewhere, they have all these other things that they have to also be taking in and understanding.
Well, right, because it's also like then too, it's also weather patterns, because weather's so much more unpredictable. We're so much more dangerous out there. So like, is this land wind or is this about to be a hurricane wind?
Yes. Yep. And taking one of those overwhelming feelings and just waiting for stuff to pass you, to me, I'm like, okay, that makes it a little bit more digestible. It's doesn't feel so overwhelming. It's not that they didn't know all the possibilities out there, because they've traveled through this stuff. They know the possibilities, but they're choosing to only deal with what's passing them right now, which makes you a lot more present.
Yeah, man. Wow, what a totally different life, like a totally different outlook.
Yeah.
So much more zen, I guess, too, because you just have to accept that there is no control.
Yeah, it's what, and again, that's all like,
like probably how like astronauts feel, like just like I'm doing what I can.
But thinking about, I was like, man, there's such a deeper meaning here to all this, because it is, you literally, because everything is outside of your control. You can only deal with and you can only read and interpret what is happening right here and right now, to then make a educated decision on what you're going to do to best brace yourself for what is coming. It doesn't mean that what is coming it should be fairly predictable, just like how we can fairly predict our course in life. But at the same time, it's like setting yourself up for success right now and just letting stuff come to you. I was like, man, like there's just so much. It's
probably part of what contributes to the island life mentality.
It does.
You can't have that large of infrastructure on islands, so there's not the pace, but also just the here and now. These peoples have been dealing with this forever, and it's, I'm sure, trickled through their culture in every aspect.
Yeah. Very, very, very
impermanence
much so.
And just, like, going with the flow.
Yeah. A whole different perspective to look at it through, especially whenever you're on the water. You know, land, yes, it's a little bit different because, I mean, both, yes, you're moving.
It's still zenny and balanced and grounded, but you're right. I definitely feel as if I am being purposeful. On land. It's my element. Like it's my...
Whereas the ocean, it's you gotta wait for it to come to you kind of thing. So I thought that was really cool.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Whole new respect. But yeah, definitely look up Marshall Island stick charts. Those are really cool to look at. And just all right, guys. Well, that is navigating and wayfinding. Like I said, we've talked about animals and how they navigate and migrate and things, but we want to talk about humans and how
you can do it. Like anybody can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, just pay attention. It's just being present in the right now and just slowing down, which I think we can all definitely benefit from slowing down anytime nowadays.
Yeah, what a good message for the new year.
Right? Just slow the frick down.
Slow down and be present.
Right? All right, guys, make sure you go check us out on Patreon. Reach out to us on social media. Laura has a baby. If you guys aren't watching us on YouTube, you're missing a baby.
He's been here the whole time. He's been here the whole time.
Yeah, he's been here. So yeah, go check us out and support us on Patreon if you can. If not, reach out to us on social media. And until next week,
talk to you later.
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Why?